To do this how we would do it as if we were in the office. It's kind of flexible, agile, a little bit impromptu, but hopefully useful. Okay, so my goal here is to inspire you, to motivate you in your participation in all the breakout sessions. Because there's several people who will be leading those sessions, getting into greater detail about various aspects of areas that should be of interest to you, or areas that we're focused on. So hopefully there's a one-to-one match there. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna reflect a little bit on the last 24 hours, share a few thoughts, and then tee it up for each of my colleagues here to talk about areas that they're focused on. All right. So for those of you who were here last year, I presented this slide and I tried to make the point that it's not about the destination, but the journey. And I did this intentionally for a couple personal reasons. This is what my wife continues to tell me, especially when we're discussing things around my children. And those butterflies actually, they stop at a place about midway between LA and San Francisco, a place called Pismo Beach, and there's a bunch of eucalyptus trees. And every year they stop there right around this time to start their journey all over again. So I thought I'd share it again because in the context of the theme for the last day and today, this theme of transformation, I've been thinking a lot about this statement and whether it's really the right statement, of how true it is, and as an aside, Marcy liked the butterfly so much she decided to create a marketing image around it. But the truth is I like the real thing better. Which kind of got me to this point that it's maybe not a single journey, but a series of journeys. Journey one after the other that we continue to go on to continue to evolve and transform our businesses, how our businesses interact with our customers, and how we fit within the larger environment. And last year, I had Alex on this rock face climbing. Alex is very well known for climbing rocks without any support, any safety gear. I think it's absolutely crazy because I'm partially afraid of heights. I guess that means that I haven't actually admitted to being afraid of heights. That partial, that's what that means? But more importantly, Alex's day at the office probably feels like our day at the office, especially when we're on this kind of series of journeys. And reflecting, I thought a lot about maybe this is the wrong question, why? Maybe the better question is what is required to succeed? Because that's really what we've been talking about here for the last day and hopefully for the rest of today. And even more importantly, as you guys take a journey home, get on a plane or drive to another part of the bay, you'll take with you what you need, what you need to help you succeed in your efforts. And because I didn't have any time to prepare my presentation, I decided to use yet another slide from last year. We talk about disruption, we talk about transformation, and I wanted to find an image that really kind of translated how dramatic disruption really can create a true opportunities. And if you think about a volcano or a lava flow, I mean, that's pretty dramatic, especially if you live right next door to one. If you think about Hawaii in particular, those islands didn't really exist at one point in time. I mean, most of the land that you've got to experience, for those that have been to Hawaii, those beautiful beaches, it's the result of lava flow. So what better imagery for true opportunity as a result of disruption? And I think we're all experiencing that opportunity in our businesses. We're at different phases of that, different kind of stages. It's pretty motivational for me to hear the case studies. I mean, medical devices connected in the operating room. I mean, you say it out loud and it's kind of scary but exciting at the same time because it shows true evolution, true transformation in our businesses. So this guy, his name's Craig Steele. He's an architect. He's based in San Francisco. He saw the opportunity as well. It's probably cheap land, right? He's in Hawaii. There's a bunch of lava flow that has now, really no one's able to use it. But he's turned it into a huge opportunity. So he bought this land, built a series of homes, very beautiful homes, literally right on top of raw lava flow. And in thinking about how we take advantage of that opportunities, I thought a lot about reflecting on what other speakers have said. You know, I'm not a big baseball fan. I went to Dodger games as a child. I loved going to the game because I was with family. But I didn't really play baseball. I got hit in the head once with a baseball, and that was kind of it for me. I liked them around 6 or 7. But listening to Steve Garvey speak, I mean, I was really motivated, personally. And the one thing that he mentioned that I believe is very important is passion. Oops, I went too far. Is passion. And interestingly, every single conversation I've had at this event or prior events, passion is very evident in all of us. Each of you are very passionate about your businesses. I mean, it's so obvious when you're up here speaking about your case studies. Or, you know, we're having a beer and you can hear the tension in the voice about some of the struggles that you've gone through in your personal business transformations. Or even on a personal level. I mean, we have professional athletes or close to professional athletes. We have people who are very artistic in their personal lives, very creative. And that passion, I think, is required for our success. I couldn't resist another image of Craig's beautiful house. So the other thing that was brought up by Ray was artistry. And that's certainly a component to success. That original idea, that artistic idea, is really the origination. In many of the things that we do, you don't necessarily see the artistry. You know, we produce a hardware chip that can be embedded in a board, that can sit on a very tiny device that you can put on a truck or put out some remote place, and that'll enable your IoT strategy. I can tell you, I know the people who contributed to the development of that, and they're artists. And take that to the farthest extreme, the farthest opposite extreme. For those that have had an opportunity to see the portal demo, the customer portal demo out in the hallway, I can tell you those that contributed to that effort are artists in what they do. So I can tell you, from my opinion, artistry is critical for our success. One last picture of Craig's house, I promise. Imagine that being your living room and the lava flow right there. That's a pretty cool image. The last thing that we need for success is partnership. And this partnership is what we bring to your success. We are here to partner with you, to help you be successful, to enable your success in those series of journeys. Today it may be IoT, tomorrow it will be something else. It will be increasing your customer engagement. Whatever it is, that's what we're here for. So please take away from this event that's our role in your journey. So where does this bring us all back to? Well, we have a huge opportunity ahead of us. And this opportunity, as Amy mentioned, will continue for the foreseeable future. But as she also mentioned, it's certainly small wars, small battles, a series of journeys that we'll all take. So just to transition, I'm going to tee up my colleagues here. Our focus has been in several areas. We continue to advance our products. So incremental feature advancement to continue to meet your needs. We've made significant progress in our investment in EMS as the foundation of our platform for monetization. Julie will be speaking about that. We've also made progress in our focus on connected licensing experience. Koppel will be speaking about that. Todd will be speaking about our investments around IoT, specifically how we secure the device, how we secure our ability to secure the rights to use the device, features and licensing on the device, and even whether that device, I kept saying advice, didn't I? That device should even be allowed within the ecosystem. And then lastly, Omkar and Darim will be covering our efforts in enabling the ecosystem. So we'll quickly kind of roll through the next slides, but we'll be covering accomplishments and highlights in each of these areas. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. My name's Julie Armstrong. For those of you who I haven't met yet, I am the Director of Product Management, responsible for our software licensing solution, which includes Sentinel EMS, Sentinel RMS, and our Sentinel Cloud solutions. So I'm going to talk to you about
Skipped one, sorry.
I'll skip that. I'm going to talk to you about our entitlement management solution, which is essentially a component of all of our offerings, even those that are part of our hardware and security solutions as well. And I'm going to talk to you again about what we did over the last year and what we're doing and what we're planning to do over the next year and beyond. So in 2015, we've done a lot of work on areas, because we're working with customers who have lots of data and are doing lots of transactions. We had a focus on dealing with large data sets and high transaction volumes. We had to make sure that we had a system and a structure and an architecture that could support millions of entitlements, tens of thousands of products, and tens of thousands of customers. So we had a big focus on that to ensure that when we're delivering a solution to you, regardless of your profile and how you use our entitlement management system, that we have the capacity and the architecture to support you in an efficient way. We recognize that different vendors and different ISVs have different load profiles. Some of them are lots of data, but fewer transactions. Others have lots of transactions, but not so many customers, for instance. So Ericsson, for instance, would have fewer customers, but many, many transactions, where some HP would have many, many transactions and many customers. So we had to make sure we looked at all the profiles and dealt with performance in that way. So that was one of our big focuses in 2015. We also focused on evolving our web services, because as you all know, the ideal scenario is one where your customers or your internal users all are using the systems and the applications that they work with in their daily life, and they don't have to go to a separate system to see data that might be relevant to them. So for instance, your salespeople, you don't want them going into Sentinel EMS to determine what products and services your customer is working with. You want them to be using Salesforce. That's what they use in their day-to-day. So you need to have the web services that will allow you to push and pull data from EMS to whatever solutions your internal users are using. Same thing with your customers. Your customers who are using your software have the APIs and the web services that allow them to use your tool and don't have to expose them necessarily to your operational licensing technologies. The ideal scenario being, I install the software, I put in a code, everything's done behind the scenes. Licensing is transparent to me. And all that is done through web services and APIs. So we've been focusing on improving our web services, developing web services that could be more efficient and easier to use, as in having a single call to complete a transaction, a single call to create an entitlement, for instance, as opposed to many multiple calls. We also added web services for channel and for download definitions. So if you have a channel operation, we can actually create on the fly through web services new channel partners and allow channel partners to access the entitlement management system to view the entitlements they've purchased, provide them to their end customers, and to see the status of their entitlements. Outbound messages. So we've added web services that will push data based on events within EMS out to other systems. So I mentioned Salesforce, for instance. Wouldn't it be nice if every time somebody activated a license, that information got updated to Salesforce so that your salespeople knew, hey, they've activated this entitlement, they're using it now. Or guess what? They're not. What's going on here? Another area we focused on in 2015 is the activation area. So we're working with more and more device manufacturers which have unique requirements of how licensing can and cannot work. There's technical limitations, for instance. So we added some options to allow you to define flexibly how your solutions can be licensed. For instance, do I need to activate all of a particular order entitlement at one time? If you have a configurator, how many people here use a configurator for their solutions? Nobody. A few. Okay. So you use a configurator to put your order together in a way that you know it's going to work. So we have the mechanism for you to say, this order is configured already. Don't change it. You have to activate everything on that order at one time to ensure that the license is going to work. Or I have more flexibility than that. I can order in quantities and activate one at a time or in some quantities over multiple servers. You control that. Activation delegation is the ability for us to capture not only who did the transaction of an activation, but who they did it for. So you have an IT group that's doing all the activations on machines, but I can tell you that it was Koppel who I did this activation for. So I can have information on who he is so that I can send him messages when it's relevant. Whether an upgrade's available, a new feature's available, a bug fix, anything of that nature. Usability improvements, I like this. I think, who was it? Ava found this one for me. Great, beautiful teapot, but doesn't work very well. So we recognize that usability and customer experience is important. And I think we all, as vendors, tend to focus, it's easier to focus on features and adding features. But we recognize that usability is core as well. And so even within our products and how your users would use our products, we need to look at how usable these products are. So we added capabilities like advanced search capabilities, in part because we know some of you have huge data sets and you need to be able to be more flexible in your searching for information. And we've improved the flows based on feedback that we've received from you and from our other customers. We've engaged people like Stellar to help us on portal activities, and we'll be continuing to do that in the future as well. In terms of where we're going, one thing that we are going to be working on in the very near term is offering electronic service delivery. Those of you who know EMS and have worked with EMS before know that we already have an ESD portal. And what we mean by that is you can associate downloads, content, to any product that you have in the catalog in EMS. And we can display to your users, these are the downloads that you need or you can get because you have an entitlement to this particular product. What we haven't done until now is offered the ability for you to offer the service for you to store and distribute that software. We made an assumption that you would have a relationship potentially with Akamai or you have your own download servers. But we recognize that many of you want to go to one service provider and not two. So we're adding the ability to come to us and we will provide the storage and delivery mechanism as well as EMS. And frankly, you could use that without EMS as well. But that's something we're adding in the next, hopefully before the end of the year. Channel enhancements. We're looking at adding the ability for you to enable your channel to do more self-service. That takes the burden off of you. So today, you can identify a channel partner on an order or on an entitlement and give them access to that information so they can view it and pass it on potentially to an end customer. However, we are now adding the capability for certain users, a certain role within a channel, to actually add their own users. We're actually adding the capability for them to then take entitlements and to maybe split them, purchase from you in bulk, purchase 100, quantity of 100 entitlements, and carve them off, and give 10 to one customer and 10 to another customer. And do that, take that burden off of you. Today, more often than not, you need to have the channel partner place the order and know the end user who's a part of that transaction. Now you can push that requirement later in the sales cycle and allow them to do it themselves. One of the big initiatives next year is going to be implementing a new reporting architecture. So as I said, we're dealing with more and more customers that have more and more data. Reporting, we do have the capability to produce custom reports because we understand we can't determine everybody's reporting requirements. And I'm not in the report writing business, to be honest with you. So enabling you to develop your reports yourself, we already have that capability. But it isn't easy because the structure of the database is complex enough that you need to know SQL and things of that nature. So what we want to do is we want to create a separate reporting database, flatten the data, make it easier for you to create your own queries and your own reports, and replicate that data on a periodic basis from your transactional database. The other thing this does is help with performance because you're not acting against the transaction database when you're running your reports. So again, with large data sets, this is pretty key. And then we want to also, in terms of next year, we want to introduce a new customer portal based on the work that Stellar and our professional services group has done to improve the user experience of our out-of-the-box and customer portal. Right now, the customer portal that we have is kind of an activation portal. It allows you to go in and quickly get a key, but it's not, it doesn't do much more. It doesn't offer much more capabilities. So we're going to leverage what's being done already by Stellar and our professional services organization and make it an out-of-the-box offering for MEMS in the future. I think that's it. I'm going to pass it over to Kapil to talk about our overall software licensing solution.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks, Jake. I'm Kapil Digani. I'm product manager in software licensing solution team. So we have been focusing a lot on solution-centric approach so that we solve complex licensing and entitlement management problems in a rather integrated fashion. So what I'm going to talk about is what significant things we did in 2015 in relation to software licensing solution and what our plans for future are. So at the first, we brought 3 key products together. That's RMS, EMS, and Sentinel Cloud, in a way that you continue to reap in the benefits of each individual product. At the same time, create a seamlessly integrated solution that solves your on-premise licensing needs, entitlement management needs, along with the benefits of connected licensing. That's why I say it's power of together while you keep the flexibility of solo. In many ways, these products have been working together earlier also. But the notion of integration is far more seamless now, such that your backend integration and application integration complexities are highly reduced. So what I mean by that is, earlier if you wanted to take advantage of RMS and Sentinel Cloud, you had 2 different set of APIs to deal with. But now it's a unified single set of APIs. So what that does is it also gives you an opportunity to grow as you need. So you can, for example, start with RMS and add cloud later on when you need. So beyond that, we have also been focusing, or rather working a lot on the new documentation set. That will reinforce how solution-centric we are becoming, the kind of use cases that we are solving, and creating plenty of development, deployment guides that will help you through step-by-step to solve your use cases. There's plenty more to it, and Darren will cover a lot of use cases in his presentation. Please do watch out for that. So how did we go about doing that? We are introducing shortly SCL add-on for RMS. SCL stands for Sentinel Cloud Licensing. It's an optional add-on when you need connected licensing capabilities. So what you get when you bring these products together? You get the enforcement richness of RMS with dynamic control and usage of Sentinel Cloud. As I just said, all this you get with a unified set of APIs. So you don't need to create multiple integrations for your application to leverage all these different benefits. Also, EMS provides common flows and catalog to deal with both on-premise and cloud situations. For example, you can create a single product and deliver in a completely on-premise or isolated environment, as well as at the same time in a connected environment. So moving on, talking purely of single cloud services, we did significant things there as well. We introduced named licensing support for on-premise deployment, which was earlier available for cloud deployments only. We also introduced various controls so that you can decide how you want your application to behave in a virtual environment. For example, you can control whether you want to allow your application to run or not in a virtual environment. If yes, do you want to detect cloning or not? So not only you get the control, but also visibility into what kind of environment your application is being used into. Usage, as everybody is talking about, even ME reinforced is pretty critical aspect of where we are heading to and what we do as connected licensing. So we are enhancing usage. We enabled usage collection even for isolated environments. So when you generate license for an isolated network, you can enable usage collection. And you can submit it to Sentinel Cloud via connected machine. So once you do that, the usage appears in reports the way it would from other connected machines. So talking of reports, we made some good enhancements in reports also. For example, now you can generate a raw usage data report that gives you each and every detail about the usage or the consumption of your licenses, so that you can integrate and use it the way you want. Also, for example, we have introduced that you can find out the IP of the machines who are making the licensing transactions with the Sentinel Cloud. And there are a few more enhancements out there. Also, we introduced admin console in Sentinel Cloud. That gives you direct control over certain settings which are important to you, but were not exposed to you directly earlier. Since we're talking about services, it is important to focus on the improvements and the enhancements we have made in the way we deliver services. We all know that security and performance are very critical to delivering services. And we have been investing there a lot. For example, when we deliver services out of Amazon, we have shifted away from classic environments to VPC. VPC stands for Virtual Private Cloud. It's a latest offering from Amazon. It provides better isolation, better security, and better control over the environments that we create for you. This also allows us to use high-performing instances in the environments that we create. Another important step that we have taken is a move towards continuous integration approach, or the DevOps philosophy as it is called as. So what does that mean is that it's an entire paradigm shift in the way we run our cycles from QA to development to QA and to the service operations team. This not only increases the speed with which we deliver the environments, but also minimizes the chances of error when we move from QA environment to the production environment. Monitoring, we have been investing and improving a lot, not only what we monitor, but also how we monitor. And all this is coupled by the improvement in processes, not only how we deal with things internally, but also how we deal with external stakeholders, including our customers. So that was a brief into what we did in 2015. Now shifting focus to what do we plan to do as we go ahead. This section again begins with the focus on solution-centric approach. So we will continue to advance our focus on solution aspects of it, not only in terms of features and functionality that we add, but also giving you options around how you want to consume it. We'll be introducing tiered offering, a base version with limited features for customers that have limited requirements, and a full-blown version for customers who have complex requirements, and so on. So you can find the right fit for your needs. The solution that we're working on relies heavily on the evolution of platforms that we have, enforcement platform and the entitlement management platform. So enforcement platform will continue to grow in a direction that will allow for pretty seamless enforcement experience across devices, across deployments, and across platforms. And entitlement management platform will continue to tie it all together in the back end. So as we go forward, you'll see enhancements in these platforms that we use to create solutions, but also to deliver services. Again, talking of SCL add-on, SCL, just a reminder, stands for Sentinel Cloud Licensing Add-on for RMS. The first integration of SCL and RMS focuses on enabling connected licensing capabilities for on-premise environments. As a next step, we'll be introducing cloud mode licensing and licensing web services also. These are primarily important in cloud-delivered applications and services, and even for mobile devices. And when we talk about cloud-delivered applications or services, prepaid and named licenses, they go pretty well with the kind of use cases you have there. So we'll be coming out with those features as well. Again, stressing on the importance of usage. So we'll be further advancing how we, not only how we collect usage, but giving you levers and controls to decide not only what you want to collect, but how you want to aggregate and report. So apart from out-of-the-box usage collection and reporting features, you will have control over how you want to deal with usage. Additionally, there's been a long-standing demand for us to support connected licensing experience on platforms other than Linux and Windows. And with SCL for RMS, that's going to be a reality soon. We'll be introducing it on new platforms, including Mac. So now talking about the RMS on-premise enforcement-specific features. Envelope is a pretty industry standard, robust intellectual property protection tool that we'll be introducing for RMS as well. It's already available for LDK, but now it's going to be available for RMS as well. Another very powerful feature that we're going to come out with is policy-based fingerprinting. It gives you complete control to decide what kind of fingerprinting policy you want to adopt based on the situations. For example, you can have different fingerprints for customers coming from different trust levels or different geographies. So it gives you enough control to strike a balance between flexibility and security based on the use cases that you have. RMS comes with its own independent tool set also, and that's going to go for a makeover. It's going to be completely web-based. And another feature is license payload. License payload is again, it's a very interesting feature. It gives you an option to write some data back to the application when activation is being done. So for example, you can pass on the entitlement data so that the application is more aware about various factors and can take the decisions. So quickly wrapping up with services again, next year we plan to go for certifications like ISO and SOC, and we'll continue to improve our monitoring and automation, which is again very key to how we deliver services. So that's it from me. Thank you, and it's over to Todd now for security.
Thanks, Kapil. Good morning. Okay, so I'll kind of go quickly, pick up the pace a little. Let's talk. I'm Todd Steele, Director of Product Management. I'm responsible for our security solutions, our IT engagements, IoT engagements, excuse me. And the first kind of accomplishment I want to talk about, something I'm excited about a bit, which is in 2015 we released a new version of our key. Well, I joined Gemalto, SafeNet, DataKey way back when, about 15 years ago. And when I joined, everyone said, all these hardware keys for dongle protection, they're going to be gone in 2 years. They're going to be gone in 2 years. And they've been saying that for 15 years. Why? Well, I visit our customers a lot. There's two things that you can't replace with a hardware key. One is the security of secured cryptographic secrets, and the second is portability. I visited so many of our customers that say they tried to move away from dongles, but their customers forced them to come back to dongles because they love the portability. You can take it out, you put it in a new one, and you're already running. Okay, it's the simplest end user experience. Well, in line with that, our new version of a dongle has the ability, has a micro SD slot, so you can put in gigs and gigs of memory. So not only is your licensing and your cryptographic secrets portable, but also application data, configuration data, installation data can move with the key as well. So that was a very fun project we did. The second project we did in 2015 is we were the first licensing platform out there for Android for B2B applications. Not only do we have the full capabilities for feature-based licensing, we also have a enterprise-grade security protection tool. Our envelope technology that's been in the market for 10 plus years has been ported to Android for both APK applications, and coming this next year, we're going to have it for native binaries on Android. The other thing to mention is as we are going more and more towards helping those use cases for devices, for mobile devices, for machines, we've gotten the feedback from our customers that the USB form factor isn't the greatest form factor for that, for those environments. So we built two different types of internally used dongles, a chip form factor that can be soldered right onto your board, or our what we call the Sentinel HL board, which is a socket pin connector so you can plug it right into your machines if you have it. So those are what we did from accomplishments last year. And as we look into the future of what we're coming out with, really focusing on IoT, and I have sessions later talking much more in depth, so I'm not going to go really in depth about this, is the first is for those customers who have restricted runtimes, who need a very small footprint of the licensing system. We're working on it. We're going to come out with it. For those customers that want to secure the environment much more broadly, we're coming out with a set of integrity features around boot integrity, around application integrity, data integrity, software update integrity. I'll talk more about that in my session later. And lastly, talking about authentication and secure communication. You know, it's funny, I joined 15 years ago. I joined in our PKI and secure identities department back then. And I always wondered, well, what the heck is the difference between a software monetization dongle and a real dongle? Okay, they both use cryptographic secrets to securely identify. You can do challenge response, determine things are there. There really isn't foundationally much difference in what a PKI token is and what a software monetization token is. Well, it just makes sense when you're doing IoT that you want a device to have a secure identity. You want to be able to establish secure communications with it. You want to be able to securely know what features am I allowed to do, what am I not allowed to do, what processes are allowed to run on this. So these are all the things we're going to be focusing on in the coming years, and you'll hear more about that in my next session. And over to Durim and Omkar.
Hey guys, I'll keep it to a couple of minutes. The focus of, you heard a lot about the products so far, and we believe that, products are great, but in a sense they solve point solutions. And the problem is probably a little larger when you look at it, because especially from a transformation perspective, which is the theme of this event. So we looked at it a little broader and said, what can we do from an ecosystem perspective where we can address some of the broader problems. And when I say broader problems, across the code to cache process. So Julie talked about ESD being a critical component. We are partnered with Akamai, who are the world leaders in this place, and we will have something before the end of the year. Then we realized the other big point that's there in transformation projects comes around the recurring revenue and the digital commerce piece, where the problem is beyond licensing, about how you can get the subscription revenue going and how you can get payments and the gateways towards enabling in-app purchases and so on. So we partnered with Aria and Avangate in this space. Definitely, you saw some of them at the event yesterday and day before, but what we have is we have some established connectors and so on, so you can take advantage of it. Finally, when you look at any transformation project, there are multiple technology systems that you touch upon, and we have a relationship with Cognizant. They are a systems integrator who bring in-depth domain expertise, and they're tied on top with the technology components to drive the transformation. I'll have Darim talk a little bit about the last two pieces.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we're kind of overrunning, so I'm going to be very, very brief on this. If you have any questions, come and find us afterwards, by all means. On the e-learning side, a lot of our customers have content, right? They'll have training materials as part of that. It could be part of their intellectual property. It could be all of their intellectual property. The applications themselves are far less significant than the actual materials that the applications are using, such as training materials. So there's been a clear requirement to have some kind of licensing for the content rather than for just the applications themselves. So people want to implement licensing rules and policies, feature-based licensing, all the stuff that that we all know and love, to the actual training materials themselves. So, and there's security stuff in there as well, like prevention of screen capture software and stuff like that to stop the content from being duplicated or basically ripped off. The toolchain side, toolchain integrations. This is a very embedded specific piece where if you think about it if you're not familiar with, if you're not in the space, in the embedded space, and you're not an intelligent device manufacturer, a toolchain integration is like having a licensing plugin available for your compiler. Imagine Microsoft Visual Studio had a licensing add-on that you could use whilst you're developing the software. That's essentially what a toolchain integration is about. It's having an inbuilt licensing add-on component into the actual toolchain itself, so that the software developer for the devices also have available to them a licensing capability alongside it. How do I advance this without turning it off? I know pretty much everyone's managed to do that so far. This is a new. So that's the accomplishments that we've done this year. So moving on to what we're going to be doing this year, over the next year, the partner ecosystem feature. I'll give you an embedded use case, but there are far more use cases to that. If you think about a hardware token, it's the ability to take a hardware token and literally slice it up, partition it up into multiple virtual tokens. What does this basically mean? In a partner scenario, you've got maybe a board manufacturer, let's say, is a good example. They would like to have some level of security, their own security implementation onto that board. But in the embedded space, these guys are going to be partnering up with other software providers, with service providers that will also be leveraging the capabilities on that board to make a more complete solution. In the old days, if they all wanted to use a token-based protection mechanism, they'd all have to have their own token. You'd end up with 5 tokens plugged into the board. With this concept of we internally refer to it as a multi-vendor token. You basically can partition that token up, so each vendor and each provider of technology or IP has access to their own self-contained, completely isolated partition on that token. Their own secrets are on there. There's no sharing of information, but you've still got a single token that goes out to everybody. On the actionable analytics, this is, again, I'll go real quick on this one. We've been talking about data for a long time now. We're talking about usage, and we're talking about the gathering of licensing metrics and application metrics, and we really want to start getting into the area of just being able to respond to that data. Build data rules and analytics rules where we can look at that information and start producing some actions out of that. Analytics 101 basically, but that's also something that we're going to be doing this year. That was a very condensed version, by the way.
And we'll be around, so questions are welcome after the next session.
Thank you. And we have the breakouts, where we can go into more detail.